Massively multiplayer online games are large virtual worlds, if you like, that exist in perpetuity. So they continue to exist. So they don't start and stop when you start and stop the game. So they are ongoing worlds that are running, and you jump into them and you play within them, and then you kind of step out of them. So what they are is they are very large environments. They usually have their own sets of laws and rules. They usually have their own sets of a social hierarchy and a caste structure. They usually have a set of working rules. They have laws. Some are lawless and therefore kind of inherently problematic with that. Some have missions that you need to go and achieve. Usually they have some form of level, so you start off at the bottom rung and your idea is to work up the rungs, but how you do that, it's a very, very flexible environment.
There are so many positive sides to social activity in MMOs. There are lots and lots of examples of where a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old has become head of a guild in World of Warcraft or another MMO, similar kind of structure. And they learn about how to run a team and how to manage people and how to assign roles and responsibilities and how to hold people accountable. You know, it's exactly what you do when you come into a particular type of job where you're running a team, you're managing people, you're understanding where one player is not performing up to scratch, you know, and you're asking them why and you're holding them accountable again. There are other really positive aspects just around asset management, talking to people, hanging out with your friends, encountering different people. In MMOs, there are all sorts of different people who are parts of guilds. You might, a 13-year-old might be playing with a 67-year-old. You know, there are different sort of generations who all take part in MMOs, and you encounter people of difference that you might not encounter in your everyday life so much, because people tend to hang out with people who are similar with them in face-to-face communities and contexts.
Some of the most famous MMOs, some of the ones that probably most people have heard of, things like World of Warcraft, which is a very much, it's probably aging slightly older of the range, if you like, so it's probably more likely to be 12, 13 plus typically. Very fantasy driven, very like Lord of the Rings, I guess, in the fact that there's elves and warlocks and wizards, so kind of magics and castes and species that don't exist in the real world, if you like. Again, very much driven around missions, so you pick a certain caste, so you want to be an elf, for example, and then you do a whole bunch of missions to try and be a better and better and better elf, or a better assassin, or a better trader, or whatever it is that you're trying to be.
Så har vi skytespill og strategispill, som en annen gruppe av disse spillene. Det som felles for dem, det at det spill som foregår over nettet via servere, som gjør at hundrevis og tusenvis av mennesker kan spille samtidig I virtuelle spillverdener.
So that's kind of almost at one end. And then in many respects at the other end you've got Moshi Monsters and Club Penguin, which are kind of, you're a little monster that goes around the world, and in a similar way you pick the type of penguin or you pick the type of Moshi that you want to be, and there's missions. It's probably less around slaying dragons but much more around playing a little game or having a snowball fight as an example. And then you've kind of got the middle ground, so things like Habbo Hotel, RuneScape. There are many MMOs that kind of came out, particularly off the back of Club Penguin's huge success. Many MMOs came into this space to try and kind of capitalize on that. Children often, they kind of have two stages of life development. The first stage is about who am I, and the second stage is about how do I fit in. So children who want to understand who they are, so for example, you could say that Club Penguin and Moshi Monster is an MMO. They want to trial who they are. They're kind of struggling with, what do I want to look like? How do I want to be? What kind of things do I want to enjoy? And then it allows them to trial real life in many respects. It allows them to try and fail at things. So in many respects, they're a fantastic tool for kids to try and experiment with real life. You know, and then as you get older about how they fit in, it allows children to experiment with social scenarios. It allows them to experiment with being a member of two different tribes, if you like, and how that can play off against each other and how they want to fit in. So, you know, in some respects, people think that that children should be doing that in the real world, that, you know, if children want to trial social experiences and see what it's like to be, you know, obnoxious for a day, that they should maybe do that in real life, but maybe that could be more damaging to try obnoxious for a day in the real world, whereas it might actually be quite safe to try obnoxious and see the consequences of obnoxious in a massively multiplayer online game. So you can see the massive benefits to children because it allows them to be whoever they want to be.
It's very interesting that people's ability to solve problems with games has become so important that I think it will become important in their working lives as well. I've just been asked to help redesign the way that air traffic controllers are trained. And they have a lot of stuff to learn and they have a lot of problems to solve, otherwise the aircraft would all collide. And one of the things we did was to take existing air traffic controllers, get them to play games, find out the games that they were good at, and now we're saying to recruit air traffic controllers, let's find people that are good at those games and we'll put them on the training course. So games, I think, could become an important filter for employment. There's a company in Oxford that if you want to get a job there, online on the website, you have to play a game which is full of puzzles, and if you can't solve the puzzles, you can't get to the application form, because they only want people that can think ingeniously, and they're using games to filter them out. So games, I think, are just going to become economically important as well as intellectually and socially. That will be very interesting, won't it? Interesting for parents.